national anthems of Canada and the United States will be sung by actress and model, the talented Sherry Belafonte Harper. To join in the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, saved us that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
90 degrees and humid outside, but as always, a comfortable and very pleasant air-conditioned 72 degrees in the Astrodome as we get set for the All-Star game. And so here we go with Dwight Gooden facing Kirby Puckett of the Minnesota Twins. And the All-Star game is underway with a bouncer toward the middle for a base hit. So Puckett starts things with a single to center. And how quickly the ascendancy for players begins as Puckett bounces one through the middle. Those two first faced each other in 1982 in the Appalachian League.
And Kirby Puckett, of course, a free swinger. The fastball down. Kirby has walked only 16 times this year. Unusual for a leadoff man. So you have an idea that ball actually hit the seam and bounced over the glove of Ozzie Smith. Otherwise, he'll have a play on that ball.
So Puckett at first base. And in just 4 years, Puckett facing Gooden in the Appalachian League, facing each other in the All-Star game as Ricky Henderson stands in. He goes after the first pitch. It's a bouncer down to Sandberg, and all they get is one. You're not going to double Henderson on a ground ball like that. But Puckett is forced out at second. So they go after Gooden's first two pitches, and it will bring up Boggs.
And that's the big difference between Dwight Gooden in 1986 and 1985. Not striking out as many batters, not leading the National League in strikeouts. One of the other National League All-Star pitchers, Mike Scott, is. A lot of ground balls. He's got two. One would have been an out, as Tim said, except it hit the dirt and came up. Otherwise, you have two ground balls and two outs. That is the difference between Dwight Gooden last year and this year.
Wade Boggs, who leads the majors in hitting. Batting .363. Henderson almost got caught going the other way. Ricky has stolen 51 bases, and this isn't a bad combination to steal against. It's about the only negative thing you can say about Gooden and Carter.
As a matter of fact, of 16 tries, Gary Carter has thrown out only 3 with Dwight Gooden pitching.
Of course, the reason for that is that Dwight is 6'4", 6'5", elongated windup, takes a little bit longer. And they say, and you're talking about a guy right here, Ricky Henderson in 1982 stole 130 bases. Once again, leading the American League in steals with 51.
Ball 1 to Wade Boggs.
Kind of an unusual, I think, ploy by Dick Hauser, manager of the American League, leading off with Kirby Puckett. A familiar role for him, but I think most experts would agree that Ricky Henderson, the best leadoff man in baseball.
Hauser asked about that, basically felt they were interchangeable. That they did a lot of the same things, and that Henderson was perhaps better suited for the number 2 spot. And there is Dick Hauser, whose team is having its problems this year. And I don't have to tell you about the manager in the other dugout, Whitey Herzog, whose team is out of the race. And who would have believed that at the All-Star break?
Certainly not the St. Louis players. Not after the year they had last year.
And his spike's caught, and that's a balk, an automatic balk. And that's one of the few balks that you will actually see, because most are invisible.
Well, that's something that's very embarrassing, but invariably happens. And then again, this is, I think, something that Tim alluded to as you take another look at it. He's aware that Henderson's over there, the quick move, and he catches his spike. Looked like he caught his right foot. And the wise decision, because if he does throw the ball and it's an errant toss, you're talking about a runner at third base.
Henderson now at second with 1 out, and here's the 1-1 pitch, and it's 2-1. We've clocked Gooden at 96 miles per hour as you see Henderson of the Yankees take his lead at second. Boggs at the plate with Lance Parrish on deck. Breaking pitch. Those who don't watch Gooden think he's having a mediocre year. Tim, you see him pitch every day. How is he now compared to the way he was a year ago?
Well, I think that's one of the problems. Everybody is comparing him to a year ago when he was 24-4 and a 1.53.
Henderson goes, and it's fouled away. So Ricky got a good jump, was on his way to third, but retraces his steps.
And his expectations, not Ricky Henderson's, but Dwight Gooden's. I think everybody is viewing Dwight from his first 2 years. And after all, he's 10-4. Randy Niemann, who was sent down the other day, a pitcher on the Mets staff, said, I wish we could all struggle with a 10-4 record.
Falls into that everything is relative category. Keep in mind, too, he is still the youngest pitcher in the National League as Boggs fouls it away.
Matter of fact, he was the youngest player until the Reds recalled Kurt Stillwell last week when Davey Concepcion went on the DL.
Gooden also set a mark, you'll recall, 2 years ago by becoming the youngest All-Star performer ever at Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
All he did was strike out the side in the first inning.
Two and two on Boggs, who not only hits but walks a lot. Wade's on base percentage is .468.
Well, something he does so well, hitting with 2 strikes last year. 240 base hits, over 180 singles. 124 of those hits came with 2 strikes, so it's a comfortable position. Maybe not as comfortable with a guy with the velocity of a 97-mile-per-hour fastball.
Smith sneaking in behind Henderson. As of last week anyway, Boggs had not popped out this season.
He popped out only twice last season.
Three and 2 the count. And that's a perfect illustration of why he is such a disciplined hitter. Normally hitters expand the strike zone. I think a key to pitching for not only Dwight Gooden but for years that I pitched is try to get ahead of the hitters and have them expand the strike zone. Right there is a borderline pitch. Boggs says, you're going to have to throw me a strike.
So with Henderson at second, the 3-2 pitch is lifted in the air to left field, and it's Gwynn fading into the corner, has room, makes the catch. Henderson tags, but he's not going anywhere, and there are 2 down. Gooden gets Boggs, and now he faces Lance Parrish. Parrish was one of those he struck out when he struck out the side at Candlestick in his first inning of work in '84.
Pardon me, that ball that Wade Boggs hit would have probably been a home run over the Green Monster in Boston at Fenway.
At least a double.
Yeah.
No cheapies in this park. The distances are honest, and the ball just does not carry very well here. Strike. 0-1.
Talking to Davey Johnson, who is coaching third base today for the National League, talking about the manager of the Mets, I asked him, really, what is the difference between Dwight Gooden? You pointed out the record, the expectation level. He said that he has just not been consistent within the strike zone. He throws strikes, but they're not, as we see a curveball just missed, they're not as quality type pitches as they were in 1985.
And plus, you saw Wade Boggs lay off that high fastball. That's another thing. The National League hitters are not swinging at that pitch anymore. They're making him bring the ball down, and he's much more effective up than down.
1 ball, 1 strike. First inning with no score. Ricky Henderson, the runner at second. And Parrish pops it up. Ozzie Schmidt in front of second base makes the catch to retire the side. No runs, a leadoff single by Puckett after a half. The American League nothing, and the National League coming up.
MLB at Home is presented by Flonase Allergy Relief. Get 24-hour all-in-one allergy relief with Flonase.
Dave Winfield talks about the irony of starting tonight and not knowing if he'll start for the Yankees this coming Thursday.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. If I can play for this team, I could play for anybody. But what can I say? It's political. It's political. They should just put me in the lineup and let me play. There are no excuses about an average. I'm not really making any excuses. My productivity is there. The hustle is there. The contributions on the field and in the locker room are a very important part of the team. And when the players even question, why am I not playing? I really don't want to get into it. I assume that I will be in the starting lineup and just there for the rest of the year.
And for those of you who don't know, Winfield has not been starting recently against right-handers. He's involved in a long-distance feud with George Steinbrenner. Long-distance meaning not face-to-face, but through the media. As you look at the defensive alignment, and those were Winfield's remarks about the fact he's voted to the All-Star team, but doesn't know if he'll be in the lineup when the Yankees resume regular season play on Thursday.
Not exactly a one-dimensional player. Even if you're not hitting for an average, he can certainly win a lot of games for you with his glove and even his base running. Not only is it ridiculous, it's amazing.
Tony Gwynn, who leads the National League in hitting at .341, and he's already won a batting title, takes high for a ball. Roger Clemens on the mound. Clemens, who was born in Dayton, Ohio, grew up in this area, went to Springwoods High School. Hometown is Katy, Texas. And a man who somehow had to procure 50 tickets for friends and relatives. In there, and the count 1-1.
At the press luncheon yesterday, Roger said that in Boston, they said, "How you doing?" And down here, they say, "How y'all doing?" And that's the big difference in pitching in the Astrodome.
That and the dimensions.
Yeah, there's a bigger difference.
Fenway hasn't bothered him. Very few parks have. He was 14-0, then he lost to Toronto. Then he had his only real bad outing of the year last Monday night against Oakland, but he rebounded to beat the Angels Saturday. So he's working on a couple of days rest, and he throws a fastball by Gwynn. 2-2.
Pretty good idea right there, Al, as you look at the dimensions here at the Astrodome. Right there, Tony Gwynn, as you said, leading the league, the National League in hitting, knows the fastball's coming, swings right through it. You don't see that very often.
In the gap toward left center field, but moving over is Henderson to make the play as the ball hangs. One left fielder flies out to the other for the first out in the first inning. Gwynn is gone, and that brings Ryne Sandberg to the plate. Most of the National Leaguers, those in the starting lineup, have been in slumps of late. Sandberg hitting .272. So for Ryan, not a spectacular year by any stretch of the imagination. And a bad year, of course, for the Cubs and just about anybody else outside of the Mets and Montreal in the East. But Ryan, the MVP a couple of years back, and the fans remember. In there for a strike, 0-1. Clemens consistently in the mid-90s, 96 and up to 97 thus far on the gun. Here's the 0-1 pitch, fouled away. Sandberg in the month of July, to illustrate the National League slump amongst the starters, is hitting .184, and the starting 8 minus Gooden through the month of July is hitting just .239.
His slump mirrors that of the Cubs. Even when they do hit their home runs, usually nobody's on. They've struggled both offensively and defensively, and especially with their pitching. A lot of injuries.
Last year, all 5 Cubs starters were at one time or another on the DL. This year, more of the same.
And Bruce Fleming brings him up as Ryan Sandberg takes called strike 3. So the first strikeout of the All-Star game belongs to Clemens.
Excuse me, Al. Rich Gedman talks about, and Lance Parrish receives this ball. Look where it is, right on the corner, 97 miles per hour. Tough to get the bat off your shoulder.
2 down, bases empty with no score. And now Keith Hernandez of the Mets. It's his 4th All-Star game, but his first start. And it's been difficult for just about any other first baseman outside of Steve Garvey to start for the National League over the past decade. In there, 0-1.
Keith, of course, all the way down from really hitting about a season high of .338. He's been in another prolonged slump. But again, another one of those more than one-dimensional, as we see the excellent curveball. Can help you with a glove. He's won 8 straight Golden Gloves down at first base. You've seen him play just a little bit tired, not concentrating with a big lead the Mets have, Tim?
Well, he has a slow bat, but as you said, he can help you with the glove.
Ripped foul into the seats back at third. Still 0-2.
That's how the half inning started with the talking head of Dave Winfield. And Dave Winfield also can help you with the glove. The only thing is Winfield's hitting 70 points lower than Hernandez. The Yankees are trying to catch the Red Sox, and the Mets are comfortably 13 games ahead of the Expos. That's the reason Hernandez is playing and Winfield is playing sparingly the last 2 weeks.
Fouled away again. Whitey Herzog, who can't believe what has happened to his team this season. And Whitey is the one manager who has lost an All-Star game for the National League in the last 14. Yep, he was there in '83 at Comiskey Park. As Hernandez hits a chopper, Wally Joyner, the rookie from the Angels, flips to Clemens, and the National League is gone in order. So we've played 1 in Houston with no score.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept it from your allergy pills? Flonase Sensimist. Nothing stronger, nothing gentler, nothing lasts longer. Flonase Sensimist. 24-hour non-drowsy allergy relief.
Just to show you graphically, pitches clocked at 95 plus in the first inning. Clemens airing it out 11 times, and Gooden a total of 8. And when you talk about airing it out, there's no better place to do it than in an All-Star game where you know you can't be on the mound for more than 3 innings.
I think the big tendency, Al, and I started 4 and pitched in 5, is that you have a tendency to overthrow. And it seems like Gooden, he threw a little bit harder when he got a runner in scoring position. Turned it up.
He faces Wally Joyner here. Wally Joyner, the first rookie to ever be elected a starter in the All-Star game by the fans. And of course, it's the first time that rookies have been included on the ballot, so that obviously helped. But he got off to a sensational start, and he's the man who took Rod Carew's spot at first base for California and has become an instant sensation.
Second in home runs with 20, second in RBIs behind Canseco in both departments. He has 72 RBIs. What a nice stroke he has.
There is the man who figures to be in next for the National League, Fernando Valenzuela. starting to get loose with Gooden on the mound in the second inning.
I look at Wally Joyner and I think of Freddie Lynn back to 1975. Nice, sweet stroke. Of course, Wally, they pitched him a little differently. He went down and hitting well over 300 at 313, went down to 277, has only hit 1 home run in the last 25 games. So at 19 almost a month ago.
Popped up, and Ozzie Smith goes out with Gwynn coming in, and it's the Wizard making the catch. So Joyner is gone. 1 away, and Cal Ripken comes up.
Gives you an idea of Gooden's high fastballs. The last 3 batters for the American League have been retired on fly balls, all high fastballs.
For the All-Star game, as you see, the DH rule not in use. All starters except pitchers must play 3 innings unless you're injured. And if the last catcher becomes injured, the removed catcher may re-enter as Ripken takes low for a ball, 1-0. A model of consistency. Cal Ripken hitting .297. Consecutive game streak still alive. 690 consecutive inning streak still alive. In there in the count, 1-1. As you look around the Astrodome, ironic in this game, you've got Dale Murphy in center for the National League, who came out of the lineup so they would take some of the pressure of that consecutive game streak off. He missed a game last week in Philadelphia, but Ripken keeps on rolling. Chopper in the count, 1-2. You talked to Cal about this streak, Jim. Is it a big thing with him? Does he want to continue?
Well, he just doesn't feel that a lot of people feel that that playing every inning of every ball game is counterproductive. You get tired. He said, what's an inning off here and there? I would just rather play every inning, and I don't really think it's hurt him. A lot of times you think he was a little bit tired this year, early in the year. I think a lot of people felt he played too many innings. In July, he's been up 47 times with 20 hits. So at a time when you think you need a rest, he's playing as well as you can play.
Curled foul. He sort of downplays it when he's interviewed about it, but I guess the longer it goes, the prouder you have to become.
Well, he's quite an athlete. He was an all-state soccer player. He's the type of basketball player that can two-hand jams over his head. I think most people look at him. And you take a look, he's almost 6'5", or maybe a little bit bigger than that, weighs about 225 pounds. And they said a guy that's that big and plays shortstop, a position you have to be very mobile at, he's got to get tired. Yeah, certainly you can't tell from his performance that he's tired.
Ozzie Smith's been a busy man, and Ozzie now has 3 putouts and 1 assist. Two down, bases empty, and now Dave Winfield down at 232. That's the lowest average amongst any of the starters. 13 homers and 56 runs batted in. And for Winfield, this is All-Star game number 10. 6 times in the American and 4 in the National, while with San Diego. 1-0.
I think it was very interesting what he said about it's all political. Very proud man. Going back to 1984, they said he couldn't hit for an average. All he did was hit 340. That was after a year where he hit about 35 home runs in one of the toughest right-handed hitters park in baseball.
Of course, he was edged out on the last day of the season by Don Mattingly 2 years ago. Hey, they talk about the recession here in Houston, the oil and gas recession. Maybe Clemens and Gooden are the answers to that recession.
Turn
They're
up the
putting
heat.
some gas on in there tonight, I'll tell you.
Well, we were up in Boston a week ago and standing around in the lobby of the hotel, and a man said, I have 6 tickets. I need another 6. All I had to do is pay an extra $200 a ticket to see Clemens pitch. So obviously there's not a recession in Boston, at least not for this fellow.
No recession in the standings there either. No recession in the standings here, as the Astros have surprised everyone by staying in the race. For the most part, they've been in first place for the first half of the season, though at the All-Star break they trailed the Giants by 1. 1-2 to Winfield. Is hit into the right field corner, and it's a fair ball, and Strawberry gets it back in as Winfield pulls in at second with a double. Hit number 2 for the American League.
One of the reasons that Dave Winfield can hit for a high average at Yankee Stadium is he does use the right side of the field. One of those guys that Kurt Flood used to talk about, spray hitter with power. He is that.
Sprays them over the fence.
That's right.
Well, you talked about the high fastball that's Gooden been throwing, and there is really not too many better high fastball hitters than Dave Winfield, especially fastball. Just throw it up there straight, and he's going to have a home run swing, and that was one of them.
If ever there's a chance to pitch around somebody, this is it. All-Star game, number 8 hitter at first base open. Chopper foul, and the count 0-1.
That's an intelligent move right there by Lou Whitaker. He knows with Roger Clemens on deck that he might see a breaking ball, no doubt. And you saw an excellent curveball from Gooden. He's looking for that pitch. Now the problem is that Gooden's curveball is as good as his fastball.
Whitfield at second with 2 down, and the 0-1 to Whitaker is a fastball foul back. 0-2 on the Tigers' second baseman, who's making his 3rd All-Star start in a row. Hit 21 homers last year, and you might recall in Minnesota last year, he forgot to bring his uniform, left it in the trunk of his car. They had to buy one at a souvenir stand, and with a marking pencil, mark in his number, number 1. As Whitaker hits it high in the air to deep right field, and Strawberry looks up. This one is gone. Lou Whitaker being serenaded with a chorus of Lou's, as is the case in Detroit, who has hit 3 home runs in his last 5 regular season games, makes it 2-0.
Gooden gets a curveball up in the strike zone. 0-2. You want to get it down, belt high. Second time he's seen that pitch, and he gets all of it. And you have to do that here in the Astrodome. No cheapies, as we talked about earlier.
So a 2-out, a double by Winfield, a homer by Whitaker, and now Clemens chops it foul. And so much for pitching around Lou Whitaker as you look at his wife and kids.
His daughter said, "I'm glad." I guess so.
Yeah.
So is Dick Hauser and the whole American League bench.
All right.
Receptive young daughter.
And you might think about why he didn't pitch around Lou Whitaker. But one of the reasons is he got a quick strike on him. And then you kind of can that theory about pitching around the guy. Once you get that quick strike on him, and then he fouls the other one back. He's 0-2 in the hole. So you say, I'm going right after him. Get the curveball up just a little, and tries an all-star.
He gets Clemens, but a little late. After the homer by Whitaker, the American League leads 2-0. Lou Whitaker's home run has made it 2-0 American League as we go to the bottom of the 2nd inning in the 57th All-Star game. And Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and Mike Schmidt to face Roger Clemens. Carter fouling it away. You've noticed that the National League has Hernandez, Carter, and Strawberry batting 3, 4, 5. It's the first time any All-Star team has had 3 men from the same team hit in those slots since 1960. As you can see it right there, Maris, Mantle, and Skowron of the Yankees. As Carter hits a fly ball to center field, and Kirby Puckett comes in to make the play. And then for emphasis, back in 1960, Yogi Berra hit 6th.
You saw Kirby Puckett right there. One of the most difficult things in the Astrodome is to sometimes follow a fly ball. Go back, first time they ever played here in 1965. We played the first day game. The Orioles came down here along the Yankees, and we won 12-9. Boo Powell played left field. We won the game because we hit more fly balls.
Mickey Mantle hit the first home run that day, right?
Well, the night before on Friday night, line drive into the center field seats or up the chute.
On the subject of home runs, Strawberry hit a shot yesterday that had to be seen to be believed in the home run hitting contest as part of the pre-All-Star workout. He fouls it away. He hit a speaker in deepest, darkest right center field. And if he does that during the game, it's in play. There it is. And as we pull back, that's how far that ball traveled. A monstrous shot. And he's only the second man to have done it in the Astrodome. The other was Mike Schmidt back in '74 in a game, and it wound up as a single. Good fastball. Clemens has retired the 5 men he's faced. That's his second strikeout. And speaking of Schmidt, he comes up next.
Well, Clemens doesn't throw very many bad fastballs. You look where Lance Parrish is sitting, look where the ball ends up. And that's one of the reasons for his success. 97 miles per hour, and more times than not, he hits the glove.
And again, it was a fastball that was up in the strike zone. Both of these fine young pitchers, high ball pitchers. Unless, of course, they throw the breaking ball. That high gas, it's tough to catch up with it. And as we said, one of the reasons that Gooden has not been as successful this year, he's been getting the ball down.
Clemens throwing it by Schmidt, and the count 0-1. Schmidt hit 2 home runs in this park Sunday to lead the Phillies to a win over the Astros, and then took the day off from the workout yesterday and played golf. Fly ball to center field, deep, but there's a lot of room here, and that's Kirby Puckett making the catch. So 6 up and 6 down for Clemens. Still 2-0 American League, end of 2.
MLB Priceless Moments, presented by MasterCard.
Gives the ball to the kid. How awesome is that? Hernandez in the air.
And there's one happy fan.
That's why we love this great game and the great players in it.
The moment. That's amazing. That is amazing.
Big hug. A big Josh Bell fan.
Wish you a long and happy life together.
Mike Trout, as usual, signing autographs for some young fans, and the reaction, priceless.
Third inning, Kirby Puckett leads things off for the American League. Then Ricky Henderson and Wade Boggs. The Americans on top 2-0 as Puckett fouls it back. And the count on Kirby is 0-2. Puckett, in his first 2 big league seasons, hit a total of 4 homers. None his first year, 4 his second, and already 16 midway this year.
Well, they made a change, moved him up on the plate. You can see him on top of the plate. And I think the pitchers have adjusted now, because early in the year he was, as we look at 2 old timers, Vice President George Bush on your right and Rusty Staub.
Staub is the honorary captain and one of the original Houston Colt 45 as he dons the replica of a uniform. And Don Drysdale is with us tonight. He'll be talking with the Vice President in the next half inning. Puckett fouling it away, 1-2, with Henderson waiting on deck, and then Boggs to follow. And Fernando Valenzuela, who will follow Gooden, loosens up in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Puckett with a shot at a batting title this year. Boggs leads the league in hitting. Mattingly is second, and then Kirby third at .338.
He came up as basically a contact hitter, just tried to hit it down on the turf in Minnesota. This year Oliva did change him, and if you look at his build, you can see that he can hit the ball a long way.
3-2 the count.
The thing about this all-star team, or this all-star game, it has a lot of players that are so well-rounded, good defensively, good offensively. Kirby Puckett, for instance. Take a look at Gooden. Kirby Puckett led the American League in assists 2 years ago, second last year.
To shallow right field, and it's Strawberry putting it away.
So well-rounded on both ends. A lot of gold gloves, a lot of consecutive games played as far as Ripken is concerned. A lot of strikeouts with that man right there.
Update on the speed comparison. Gooden has now thrown 27 at 95 plus. He's also thrown a lot more pitches than Clemens, who's retired the 6 men he has faced. Henderson, who bounced into a force. Good curve for a strike. And if you're not used to seeing Gooden, I guess that's easy to do. You bend back and the pitch breaks over. I guess it's easy to do if you've seen him 100 times.
Well, again, I think from all the media, the big question, what's the difference between Dwight Gooden and Roger Clemens? And we've seen tonight they both throw with the same velocity, just right around 96, 97 miles per hour. I think over a course of a season, at least looking at Dwight Gooden last year and the year before, has the better of the curveballs. Tonight, you couldn't tell a difference. Both of them, with the exception of the hanging curveball to Whitaker, both of them had an excellent curveball. Clemens, of course, has a slider and a changeup, even though Dwight throws a changeup. He's in a situation, again, what you said, expectations. If he throws a changeup and gets hurt with it, people are saying he's not using his best pitch.
Half swing, and Henderson commits himself. And that's that for Ricky.
Here's the fastball tight to Henderson. And after 2 curveballs, that fastball looks like it was thrown about 200 miles an hour. That's why you get a check swing in that situation.
2 down, and Wade Boggs, who flied to left to deep left in the first inning. Justice is served in a way, and there is Tom Lasorda, the manager of the Dodgers and one of Whitey Herzog's coaches, looking on from the National League dugout. George Brett was voted the starter at third, and Brett, after a very slow start, has really picked it up, but George has a bad shoulder, so he can't play tonight. And Boggs, having a great season, rightfully gets a spot in the lineup and is inserted into the 3-hole.
Another example of one of those players that was somewhat one-dimensional when he came up. He's learned how to run, moved up by running on his toes, become a much better defensive third baseman. Will eventually hit more home runs.
A look at George Brett in uniform, though unable to play tonight.
Strained rotator cuff.
Boggs toward the middle. Sandberg knocks it down, recovers, throws, but doesn't get him. So Boggs gets aboard. Sandberg making a nice play to get there, but unable to hold on, and Boggs is safe with 2 down, and Parrish coming up.
What an infielder tries to do when he backhands the ball, whenever he has to go to his right, tries to catch the ball in the webbing, and that ball hit the heel of the glove of Sandberg. He actually went too far, and that's why the ball just popped out and no chance to get Boggs.
And they've given him an error. Pretty tough call.
Undoubtedly, the scorer never played on AstroTurf. The ball, a lot of people say the ball picks up speed. I don't think it picks up speed. That's probably physically impossible. But what it doesn't do is slow down. A lot of times that second hop is just as fast as the first hop. There, the first hop is got a lot of overspin on it.
Parrish hits a fly ball to Murphy, and that's that. So Sandberg's error means nothing, and at the end of 2.5, the American League 2, the National League nothing.
From the captain of the Yale baseball team in 1948 to the Vice President of the United States, George Bush. And Mr. Vice President, first of all, an honor to have you with us. And I know that this is extra special to you being down here in Texas for the All-Star game.
Well, it's a great treat, and I've only got one real blessing, and that is that I never had to go up against Drysdale.
Mr. Vice President, when we talked about your baseball career before going on the air, a special thing happened to you by the Bambino, Babe Ruth.
Well, Babe came up to Yale University in 1948. Brought his papers. He was dying of cancer, and of course he was the key figure in baseball, and I'll never forget it. It's just as alive an experience as it was yesterday, and it made a great impact standing there shaking his hand, and just the memories flooded back, and I've thought about it a lot. What a great ball player, and what a symbol he was for the whole country.
Well, and you too, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for being with us.
Just delighted to be here, Don.
Let's go right up to the booth and Al Michaels.
All right, thank you, Don, as Dale Murphy starts things off for the National League in the bottom of the 3rd. 2-0, the Americans on top as Murphy hits it to the hole, backhanded by Ripken. Plants, throws, and gets him. Cal Ripken. Well, you know about his bat, but for those of you who don't watch him play a lot, even though it's a disputed call at first, take a look at his arm.
We talked earlier about his mobility. You get a chance to see it here. Playing up the middle makes this play a little more difficult. Now you get to see the arm. As good as anybody's in baseball when he needs it. And he needs it right here. Joyner with the tag.
Clemens has now set down the 7 he's faced, and Ozzie Schmidt of the Cardinals takes high, ball 1.
Going back to what we talked about earlier, Al, they talk about Cal Ripken, and they said, you know, how can you play shortstop when you're that big? You can't have good range. We saw the arm right there. If you know how to play the hitters, you can be a good shortstop.
Whitaker throws Smith out, And Clemens is now one batter away from 3 perfect innings, and Kevin Bass of the Houston Astros comes up to bat for good.
See the standing ovation, and what a marvelous year Kevin Bass is having. Last year, 16 home runs, 13 already. Made himself into a much better left-handed hitter.
He's a man who in spring training really didn't know exactly where he fit into the lineup. In a way, some regarded him as the 4th outfielder. Instead, he winds up as the 4th Astro on the All-Star team and goes after the first pitch and hits it down to Whitaker. And Roger Clemens, in his hometown, pitches 3 perfect innings. And at the end of 3, it's the American League 2 and the National League nothing. Well, here comes Fernando Valenzuela of the Los Angeles Dodgers, 11-6, a .301 earned run average. So Fernando on a pace to win 20 or close to that figure in what's been a real rough year for the Dodgers, especially injury-wise. Meanwhile, 3 perfect innings. Jim Bunning, our colleague Don Drysdale, Spahn, and Bunning again, and Denny McLain. Steve Stone did it in 1980, and Roger Clemens joins that select list tonight. 9 up, 9 down, and hats off to you, Roger, with a 2-0 lead. Don Mattingly, meanwhile, comes up to pinch hit here in the 4th inning. He'll bat for Wally Joyner and then stay in the game. Joyner came up once and popped out in the 2nd. So last year's American League MVP facing Valenzuela and taking a strike. Ripken due up next, and then Winfield. And what you'll see from here on out, not only pitching changes, but a lot of other position changes and pinch hitters.
And there's a great story about Don Mattingly, who's not using his bat. He is using the bat of Mike Fischlin, the utility infielder for the New York Yankees. Mike asked him, he said, I'll probably never get to an All-Star game, but will you at least use my bat? So he's using Fischlin's bat.
Probably. Teddy Higuera. Right, I guess there is. Teddy Higuera, sorry, Mike, in the American League bullpen as Mattingly fouls it away. But Fischlin's got a good enough sense of humor to understand, I would think.
It's going to take a tremendous rash of injuries.
Right.
I tell you, what a front runner, though. He couldn't have picked a better guy to let him use his bat.
He's already won a batting championship. He's already won an MVP award.
341 this year, as you see him fish after the low and away changeup. Excuse me, screwball.
And that's a posture that many have taken against Fernando Valenzuela.
Well, he's got so many pitches. You see the screwball right here. He's got a fastball he can spot. See Mattingly out on his front foot. Something that's not easy to do if you're a pitcher. Try to induce him to take that bat a swing. As we said, he's hitting .341, can hit with power. 2 years ago, 140 over 140 RBIs. Quite a hitter and made him look bad.
Fastball to Ripken taken for a strike. Fernando, 6 years in the big leagues and 6 times on the All-Star team.
And never won 20 games, and that's the amazing thing. 11-6 on a team that's 40-48. 8 games under 500, that hasn't caught the ball very well, hasn't scored a whole lot of runs. As a matter of fact, if you take these 2 pitching staffs, and I believe I'm correct when I say this, there's only one guy that's won 20 games, and that's Dwight Gooden last season.
24-4.
So as you said, there is a changing of the guard.
Very much so, and very much typified by the pitchers, by the young players. Accentuated too by Joyner's selection as the first rookie. 2-1 the count on Ripken.
One of the reasons for Valenzuela's success also, he'll throw any pitch on any count. He's got several different kinds of screwballs. Curveball and a fastball away.
Scoogie there, and the count 2-2.
And he'll also, as you saw with Mattingly, throw the screwball to the left-handed hitter, and that's what also makes him stand head and shoulders above most left-handers that throw screwballs. Most of them won't throw it to a left-hander.
Mike Cuellar for years pitched with him with the Orioles, would not throw it. It just was not effective. It comes into the left-hander, but when you have it control that Fernando has, you can throw it almost any time, anywhere to any hitter, and he does it.
3-2 the count. One of the National League coaches is Davey Johnson, whose New York Mets are in very comfortable shape in the National League East, leading by 13 at the break. In there, strike 3. Change speeds, turned it over and up. And so Fernando, and you saw the graphic, he struck out in succession Winfield, Reggie Jackson, and Brett in '84, has gotten Mattingly and Ripken here.
Well, you could see, as you said, Tim said, the quality of the screwball. That ball almost right in the middle of the plate, yet he's totally fooled. Don't know whether to look for the fastball or the curveball or the screwball.
And you also saw two types of screwballs, the screwball on the outside corner on the 2-1 pitch, and then he struck him out with the screwball inside.
Now Jesse Barfield of the Toronto Blue Jays bats for Winfield and takes a strike. Blue Jays have struggled, so Barfield hasn't gotten some of the acclaim that he deserves. 21 homers and 65 RBIs to go with his 296 mark. In what has to be considered the best overall outfield in baseball, as you've got Barfield, Lloyd Mosby, who's also here, and you could certainly make a case for the left fielder George Bell having been named to the team, but there's just so much room. 1-2.
Here's one area that I thought Jesse Barfield would excel a little bit more is in base stealing. Only 3 this year. Of course, Mosby makes up for it. An excellent base stealer and center fielder up in Toronto. But you don't take extra bases. These guys can throw, they can get to the ball, and hit with power.
And he has struck out the side. Fernando sets him down at the end of 3.5. Still 2-0 America.
The National League starter Dwight Gooden with us, and Dwight, the curveball up to Lou Whitaker, and that's all it took.
That's all it took, and that's been my problem all year. Just that one mistake pitch and been taken out of the game. And for the second half, I hope I can learn from that.
What about pitching here in the Astrodome? Do you like it?
Yeah, I love pitching here. It's a pitch at the ballpark, and they got a nice high mound, and that helps the curveball.
The New York Mets going into the break, 13 ahead. What do you do to keep up the good things that are going to with you now?
Well, things have been going great. I hope the 3-day layoff ain't hurt nothing, but we just got to stay good and keep everybody healthy and take it a game at a time and keep playing the way we played the first half.
Roger Clemens was here just a moment ago, and you told me that you weren't too thrilled going against him.
No, if it was my turn to hit, I didn't want to face him at all.
Okay, pitcher's thoughts, and right now let's go back up to Al Michaels.
All right, thank you, Don, as Tony Gwynn leads off and Teddy Higuera is on the pitch. Higuera from the Milwaukee Brewers, and it means right now you have 2 Mexican-born left-handers pitching in the All-Star game. Valenzuela and Higuera with a mark of 10-7. Gwynn fouling it away. 1-1.
Ernie Banks used to say, good day for 2. And of course tonight a good night for 2. There are 2 Smiths in the game, 2 Hernandez, 2 Fernandez, and also 2 Valenzuelas. Fernando and Teddy Valenzuela Higuera. That was his idol growing up in Mexico. Fernando picked the right guy, didn't he?
Teddy might be Fernando's idol one of these days. Higuera has pitched some gems already in his brief career.
Well, that he has. He had 5 pitches last year, and Herm Starrett, pitching coach up in Milwaukee, got him down to 3. A little changeup he turns over. He throws a little bit harder than Fernando, and he has a kind of a slider curveball, which they call a slurve, which you saw right there.
3-2. Meanwhile, Mattingly stays in the game at first base, and Barfield stays in the game in right field. Mattingly hitting 5th. And Barfield hitting 7th. 3-2 the count. Nobody out. Bottom of the 4th, and a breaking pitch is over. Strike 3. And so the National League has sent 10 men to the plate with nary a base runner.
Something you don't see very often, a called 3rd strike. We talked about Valenzuela throwing any pitch any time. Gwynn fouled off about 4 or 5 fastballs, and then all of a sudden 3-2. Curveball on the inside part of the plate froze him.
Ryne Sandberg struck out in the first inning. Clemens with 3 perfect innings had 2 strikeouts. He got Sandberg in the first and he got Strawberry in the second. The scoring, Winfield a 2-out right field double in the second, and then Whitaker a home run after Gooden had gotten ahead 0-2. 1-1 the count.
This game really all the characteristics of the game played here in 1968.
It wound up 1-0, the only 1-0 game in history, All-Star history, as Sandberg hits a fly ball to shallow left, and Ricky Henderson takes charge. Henderson used to playing center, but knows what it's like to play left, because that's where he played as an A with Murphy in center for so many years.
Won a Gold Glove back in 1981, and he plays center field up in New York now for the Yankees, but I think his best position is left field. I've never seen anybody play it as well.
Keith Hernandez at the plate. Well, it's figured, as Tim said, to be a low-scoring game. It's a prototypical Astrodome game in a way, even though we've had the home run by Whitaker. Certainly from the American League pitching standpoint, a typical Astrodome encounter. And this will make 4 perfect innings as Puckett takes care of Hernandez. At the end of 4 quick ones, the Americans lead 2-0.
MLB at Home is presented by Flonase Allergy Relief. Get 24-hour all-in-one allergy relief with Flonase.
The American League starter, Roger Clemens. And Roger, of course, 15-2. Everything going right for you right here at home, Katy, Texas. It's another page in the history of Roger Clemens this year.
Well, it has been. It's been like a fantasy camp this year, and the Red Sox are playing well, and I'm pitching pretty good so far this season. Right now, I'm just looking down the road, getting ready for a second half. But you know, this was a big day for me, and a lot of family was here to see it, so I'm very happy.
And of course, the Red Sox, as you mentioned, on top, you've got to feel as though that you can be there to stay. You are for real this year.
Well, I think we are. We got a lot of young guys, and we got a few pitchers that need to come off the disabled list to help us out in the second half. But hopefully, we'll get rolling and just keep on rolling.
Roger, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back upstairs to Al Michaels.
All right, Don. Whitaker comes up, and it's Lou who's the difference in this one right now. 2 out. Winfield at second inning. To deep right field and out of here into the seats for Whitaker, who has 12 during the regular season, and we mentioned 3 homers in his last 5 games last week. And the difference in tonight's encounter with the Americans on top 2-0 in the 5th. Whitaker and then Teddy Higuera to come up next, the pitcher, followed by Kirby Puckett. Fernando Valenzuela, who struck the side out in the 4th inning, deals 1-1, and it's 1-2. And Fernando's wife, Linda, amongst those here at the Dome tonight. Fernando and Steve Sachs representing the Dodgers in the All-Star game. In there, strike 3, and so Valenzuela, who struck out the side in '84, and it's worth noting again, he got Winfield, Jackson, and Brett, has now taken care of Mattingly, Ripken, Barfield, and Whitaker.
I tell you, shades of Carl Hubble back in 1934. He struck out 5 in a row to lead off the game. Not too shabby a hitters that he got.
Now it figures Higuera would break the string, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
0-1.
I think he was hoping that Lou Whitaker got a hit so he could bunt.
Well, one countryman faces the other, and he would tie Carl Hubble's mark here with another strike.
All you have is Babe Ruth, and then you had Lou Gehrig, and then Jimmy Fox, and then Al Simmons and Joe Cronin. Of course, at the time, you think they thought it was that great a thing.
Well, Higuera's made a little history thanks to Valenzuela. So Fernando has struck out the 5 he's faced, and now Kirby Puckett comes up. Remember when he first came up in '80, he looked so overweight, and his mannerisms were so unusual, and everybody said he's a flash in the pan.
And Valenzuela wouldn't have had a chance to start were it not for an injury to Jerry Royce opening day.
Grounded to Schmidt, and it breaks the string of strikeouts, but 2 perfect innings for Fernando. American League 2, National League nothing.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept it from your allergy pills? Flonase Sensinist. Nothing stronger, nothing gentler, nothing lasts longer. Flonase Sensinist. 24-hour non-drowsy allergy relief.
the All-Star game in Houston. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, Don Drysdale. 4.5 innings gone. The American League leading 2-0, and Gary Carter to lead things off against Milwaukee's Teddy Higuera in the bottom of the 5th. Carter flied out his first trip and takes outside. 1-0. There's Fernando, who's faced 6, retired all, and struck out 5. Looking for a bat, hopeful he'll get up. He's a good hitter, but chances are slim they'll get to his spot.
He hit 3 home runs one year. We talked about the dimensions of this park. It used to be the best pitching park in the National League. Now it's about the 3rd best. They brought the fences in just about really 10 to 12 to 6 feet around, depending which part of the park you go to. But also, I think another thing as a former pitcher is that, again, you look at Fernando. Obviously, the pressure doesn't bother him, nor does the American League hitters. Look at
Carter grounds it to 3rd, where Boggs picks it up, and that's 13 up and 13 down for the National League. And it shades of 1980 when the game was played in L.A. The first 14 National Leaguers went out in order, and then Ken Griffey hit a 2-run homer, or hit a homer off Tommy John, a bases empty homer, and the National League went on to win the game 4-2.
You just saw one of the differences in a third baseman playing on natural surface and artificial surface. You saw Boggs' first step to his right, and then he adjusted back to his left. Ball gets on you in a hurry on the artificial surface, of course.
1-0 the count on Strawberry, who rips it to right field, and Barfield has to play it on a hop, and so the National League finally gets a base runner.
Throw Darryl Strawberry a breaking ball, you speed up his bat a little bit. See the long arms, the extension, and then you see the top spin. Barfield's first step is really to his right, and then in. Ball with a lot of top spin falls right below him. We said Jesse Barfield, awfully good outfielder. That play can be made. He's usually going to make it.
Mike Schmidt fly to center in the 2nd inning. American League plays him straight away, and he lays off a high fastball. 1-0 the count.
Schmidt, of course, off a hot game on Sunday. He had 2 home runs in this ballpark for the Phillies.
Playing at first base and saved the game with a diving stab to thwart a Houston rally. Pretty good idea of Teddy Higuera. That is not a lightweight. In 137 innings, he struck out 115 batters. Fastball over 90 miles per hour.
Jim, we were talking about it between innings. He throws like Valenzuela. Maybe a little harder. He is very, very impressive. First time I've ever seen him pitch.
And if you talk to the American League hitters, they say he paints. In other words, he's on the corners. Excellent control to go with really overpowering stuff. And really a thought that I was trying to get to earlier was that you take a look at the mound. Part of a characteristic of a good pitching ballpark is the pitching mound. Very high mound here, good fall. You can get away with a lot more high fastballs on that kind of mound, and we've seen those all night.
3-1 now on Schmidt.
A very important thing, though, right here, Tim, is that, as we said earlier, you have a tendency to overthrow, and you're looking at a guy named Mike Schmidt who has 477 lifetime home runs.
Got Dale Murphy on deck. That's the one thing about the All-Star game. You got somebody on deck just as potent as the guy with the stick in his hand.
And Schmidt is on. So the National League with its first semblance of a rally as Strawberry goes to 2nd. Schmidt is at first with 1 down, and here is Murphy having an off year for him. 273 average and 36 RBIs at the break.
Coming off a shoulder injury to his right shoulder, and story we heard he was only going to play 3 innings, and I guess this is what you talk about, the spirit of the National League players. Once the game starts, you don't want to come out.
And also one of the reasons that he played in 740 consecutive games. He, by the way, told me on the plane down here to Houston from New York that Ted Simmons had a lot to do with his deciding not to play last Wednesday in Philadelphia. Set him down in the locker and he said, you're the one who has to make this decision. How long do you want to keep it up? Ted Simmons, of course, the veteran catcher who came to the Atlanta Braves from the Milwaukee Brewers this spring.
High fly ball to center, and an easy play for Kirby Puckett. Strawberry's tagging but not going anywhere, and there are 2 down. So Darrell is still at second, and Mike Schmidt is at first, and with 2 away, Ozzie Smith is due up, but Whitey will look for the 3-run homer, and he'll send U.B. Brooks of the Montreal Expos to the plate. And then Brooks will stay in the game at shortstop.
An interesting thing about the 3-run home run, Al, you have to go all the way back to 1964. Johnny Callison, the last time the National League ever hit a 3-run home run. So they have won without the Earl Weaver 3-run home run, so to speak. As we said, 21 out of the last 23 ball games, and here's a guy very capable of hitting a home run, even though he's coming off a thumb injury and has not hit a home run in a long time.
Well, U.B. Brooks went to Montreal in the Gary Carter deal, and neither team, I would imagine, would turn that one down. Carter's meant a lot to the Mets, and they have no gripes when they look at the standings. And the Expos, among others, picking up U.B. Brooks, who has developed into one of the premier shortstops in baseball.
Also in that trade, Floyd Yeomans, a fine young right-handed pitcher, Herm Winningham, and Mike Fitzgerald, and all are on the 24-man roster.
And Brooks, all of a sudden, has developed into an adequate shortstop and a fine hitter and a guy with a lot of punch.
Especially with 2 outs. He is one of the most notorious 2-out RBI men in the National League.
And that's the situation right here with 2 out and 2 on, and the American League leading 2-0.
The big advantage, though, from pitching a lot of all-star games is that if you can throw strikes, and Aguirre has done that most of the time with only the 1 walk to Schmidt, U.B. Brooks doesn't know how you throw. Chances are he has not seen him. I always felt the pitcher had an advantage. And I pitched against Aaron and Mays and Stargell and McCovey. When I ran into problems is when I couldn't get the ball over the plate, or when I got behind. And I go back to 1977 where I served up 3 long ones in Yankee Stadium.
1-2 to Brooks is a fastball high, 2-2. Valenzuela would be due up next, but wouldn't hit. And Glen Davis of the Astros is out on deck if Brooks keeps the inning going. There's Glen. Brooks hits it off the hands down to second, and Whitaker throws to Mattingly to retire the side. So the Nationals' first rally is squelched. It's still 2-0 going to the 6th. A little reminiscing before we go to the 6th inning. Tim McCarver, you played in the All-Star games in '66 and '67. How'd you do?
Well, I did all right. I was on 2 winners, and both of those games were extra inning games, both won by the National League. As a matter of fact, in '67, the longest game, 15 innings ever in All-Star history.
How did you do personally?
Oh, I went 3 for 3. I've got it right. Oh, shucks. You really had to pull that out of me, didn't you?
And Palmer, your greatest thrill was what? Giving up those 3 home runs?
No,
in
I
New
was
York?
actually warming up to go in the game in 1971, being on a winning team and watching as I was warming up in the bullpen in Detroit, Reggie Jackson's home run off the transformer. Total silence in the ballpark as everybody else watched him, too. Boy, what a smash that was.
Looked like a golf ball. As Ricky Henderson starts things in the 6th inning. Henderson has grounded out and struck out. He'll be followed by Boggs and Parrish, and a couple of changes for the National League as it's fouled straight back. For the National League, the new third baseman is Chris Brown of the San Francisco Giants, and the new right fielder, Dave Parker of the Cincinnati Reds. Parker bats 5th and Brown bats 6th as Henderson takes a strike.
You just wouldn't bite for that overly humble shot, would you?
Were they 3 solid hits?
Does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't
Sure it
matter.
does.
They are now, I'll tell you that.
2-2. The other change for the National League is that Brooks stays in the game. Huey now playing shortstop with Ozzie Smith out. Little looper back of third. Brown is calling, but he's waved away by Brooks, and there's one away. So Henderson is now 0 for 3, and Wade Boggs will be coming to the plate. A reminder, ABC's Wide World of Sports. There are the times at the bottom of the screen Saturday featuring the World Ice Spectacular, including Torvill and Dean making an appearance, and the Harlem Globetrotters. And the week after, Mike Tyson back in action. The heavyweight takes on Marvis Frazier, and Barry McGuigan in the rematch with Steve Cruz. Wade Boggs looks at a strike. Boggs has flied to left and reached on an error. Hit softly in the center for a base hit. So Boggs is on, and it will bring up Parrish. I think I mentioned rematch of McGuigan and Cruz, which is news to those guys. What we'll have for you is the tape of their recent fight.
Well, so predictable here. Boggs with a lifetime batting average over 325. He's 0 for 2. You know he's going to get a hit. Just fights it off. Good pitch by Valenzuela, but Boggs won the war. Just fisted it into center field.
What was that amazing stat last year with the count 0-2? After that, Boggs hit 390 on the year.
And lifetime, he's over 400 against right-handed pitching at home at Fenway Park. Boggs at first with one away, and Parrish at the plate. Little half swing, shallow fly ball, and it hangs for Murphy for the out. 2 down, and we'll see Mattingly. One other thing worth mentioning about Boggs, for those of you who don't really follow the game, he's having a great year, and he's doing it under extreme duress. Wade is the fellow whose mother was tragically killed in an auto accident about a month ago. So he was gone for a week, and he's been able to come back, and we talked to him in Boston last week, and he says, hey, this is the best thing. Play baseball every day. So he's a man carrying quite a burden magnificently. Mattingly now, who pinch hit for Joyner and struck out in the 4th inning. Oh, and 1. Valenzuela in his final inning of work, and if he does not allow a run, that'll make 7 2/3 innings in his all-star career without allowing a run. One and 1.
The basic problem is I pitched my first 9 innings, didn't give up any runs, and then that's when the problems started. I got older, and the lineups got better.
1 and 2.
Don Mattingly, who I think in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago was voted the #1 player by his peers. A poll of I think about 419 players. Said what he wants to do is you take another look at a screwball way out in front again. Pitch he struck out on last time. Said he wants to improve every time, every year he plays the game of baseball.
To Sandberg, and the inning is over. And at the end of 5.5 in the Astrodome, on Whitaker's homer, it's 2-0 American League. Coming up this weekend, the British Open. Saturday, 3rd round action beginning at noon Eastern, and then Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Final round from Turnberry. The British Open this weekend on ABC. Tim Raines of the Montreal Expos will pinch hit for Fernando Valenzuela, who worked 3 innings, allowed no runs, 1 hit, and struck out 5, and those were in succession to tie an all-star game record. And now Tim Raines having a great season at .333, 41 steals, and he's been caught only 4 times, and really on the verge now of emerging as a true superstar, a guy who's been around long enough, and he's just about been consistent enough and finally beginning to get his due as it's fouled away.
The most amazing tribute, plays in Montreal, doesn't have the exposure a lot of American teams, yet over 900,000 votes in the All-Star, so the fans are aware of him. You said a switch hitter, hit .320 last season. Amazing base stealer for not only amount of bases, but percentage, which is the most important thing.
To straightaway center field, and Kirby Puckett is right there tapping his glove. 1 away. 5 putouts for the Twin center fielder as Raines is gone, and Tony Gwynn of the Padres, who's 0 for 2, comes up. One change for the American League. Lloyd Mosby is in the game now. Mosby of the Blue Jays in left field as Ricky Henderson is finished for the night. Gwynn fouls it away. 0-1. Teddy Higuera of Milwaukee in relief of Roger Clemens, who was perfect. If you joined us late, the only scoring in the second inning. Dave Winfield with 2 out, double to right off Dwight Gooden, and then Lou Whitaker with first base open, the number 8 hitter. Hit one into the seats in right field, and that's been it. 2-0 American League.
An interesting thought earlier, George Brett, you talked about the fact that he was voted to the team, but because of the rotator cuff injury is not playing. When asked to explain why the National League always wins, or at least 21 out of 23 times,
as Gwynn grounds to Mattingly for the out.
He's just talked basically that every time the National League has been given a chance to win the ball game, they've taken advantage of it. Tonight, not too many opportunities so far.
I mean, they have been shut down. Roger Clemens and now Teddy Higuera. They have not had a lot of good pitches to hit. And this is not a bad lineup that Higuera and Clemens is facing. Obviously.
Ryan Sandberg struck out, fly to left.
Of course, the guy they're going to be facing for the American League in the 7th is Charlie Hough, a knuckleballer.
So they go from Clemens through Higuera to Hough.
3 totally different pitchers.
Sandberg fouls it away. We talked earlier about the fact that the National League All-Stars, as a starting unit anyway, in a pretty good collective slump in the month of July, and it's continued tonight.
You're looking at a guy that could put you into a slump. He's done that to a lot of American League hitters. Again, Tim, and we really haven't gotten a radar reading, but Clemens was around 97. I know on Milwaukee's radar gun, which is one of those slow guns, which is 3 to 5 miles per hour, a little bit slower than the normal Jugs gun. I know they don't like you to say that. He's right around 90 miles per hour, so he gets it up there in a hurry.
1-2. And Charlie Hough, at the age of 38, his first All-Star appearance coming up.
We are told, Jim, that Higuera is throwing the ball 91, 92 miles an hour. With that, too.
Sandberg gone, so is the National League. And at the end of 6, it's still 2-0 Americans.
Well, when you think of Carl Hubble, you'll think along the same lines with Fernando Valenzuela. 5 strikeouts in a row, and Fernando, congratulations. Different names in that order, the last one being Teddy Higuera, but it's still there.
Yeah, I'm very happy for the record, you know, because I know everybody knows who is Carl Hubble, great star, and I'm very happy for tie this record.
And of course, you've got the bat right here. You couldn't convince Whitey Herzog that you wanted to hit.
No, you know, but I think we have a lot of real hitters, you know, and it's because pinching for me, I threw 3 innings. I think it's okay.
Fernando, congratulations.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's go back to Al Michaels.
All right, Don, you got to love Fernando as you look at Mike Scott. Bat in hand. The other night, he's a pinch hitter. Went from first to third on a nice base running play, but then tired himself out to the point where Oral Hershiser had to go in to run for him. Mike Scott, who leads the majors in strikeouts, starts the 7th inning with a fastball to Cal Ripken that's hit foul toward the bullpen, and Hernandez runs out of room. Now, other changes for the National League here. Raines stays in the game in left field, and Chili Davis is in center, with Steve Sachs at second. And we'll give you the American League changes as well, or a look right now at the lineup. In case you're keeping score, it should look like that. And they'll replace Higuera because he's gone 3, and Mosby has already replaced Henderson in left field. 1-1 the count on Ripken. Mike Scott who's thrown that split-fingered fastball, and some will say something else as well on his route to success this season. What might that be, James? And we'll have to open up Mr. Palmer's mic. I think Scott probably cut you off.
Well, that was the split-fingered fastball, which is, and there you see what he calls it is a cut fastball. And what makes that pitch effective is the one he threw before. A little more pressure on the middle finger. Watch the ball sail away. Ripken doesn't see that pitch too often. Of course, when you're throwing the ball around 96 miles per hour, it's going to make it even more effective. But going back to what you said earlier about the San Francisco Giants, Roger Craig has been the advocate of that split-fingered fastball, and it's made all the difference in the world for Mike Scott. I wonder what his record would be if the Astros here in Houston had scored a lot of runs and supported him well.
He's pitched brilliantly nearly every time out.
Well, last year 18-8. This year similar record.
1-0 on Barfield, batting for the second time in the game, and there's the pitch, and it's 1-1.
That was that split finger fastball, and I'm wondering what Roger Craig is thinking now. When he taught it to Mike Scott, he was a scout for the Detroit Tigers. Now he's a manager with the San Francisco Giants, and they're a game ahead of the Astros. And he's looking at the Astros and their main competitor's best pitcher. Interesting.
And I think Roger's one of those that thinks Scott is throwing that other pitch as well.
Yes, complained about it. Right?
Well, Buck Rogers up in Montreal, but of course he said the other day, though, he thinks he's gotten honest.
Don't ask Barfield.
Well, you're seeing why he has struck out over more than one batter per inning. 167 and 161. The ball just, the bottom falls out. If you do hit the ball, you hit the top half of the ball, and it's a grounder. Very effective pitch.
Jim, Mike Scott has told me that pitch is not that difficult to throw. If that's the case, and a lot of pitchers see the success that most pitchers are having with that pitch, why aren't more of them throwing it?
Well, first of all, I think you have to have an overhand delivery, and Mike Scott has that. Secondly, you have to have long fingers, which he has. Number three, you have to have the right guy teach you. And Roger Craig did it in 10 days.
Frank White of the Kansas City Royals takes a strike. And the crowd coming to life as they sense Scott striking the side out. He's gotten Ripken, he's gotten Barfield, and White is hitting for Whitaker. 0-2. In a way, it's reminiscent of the game a couple of years ago in San Francisco with all the strikeouts.
I think a major difference, that was a twilight game. You expect that. You can see a little bit better here in the dome.
White makes contact, and good deep contact to center field, and gone on an 0-2 pitch with the crowd roaring for the side to be struck out. Frank White hits one out, and the American League leads 3-0. Frank White, who you'll recall was the cleanup hitter in the World Series for Kansas City last year.
We've seen 2 home runs tonight for the American League. They're both on 0-2 pitches. They're both what you would call mistakes. That was supposed to be one of those cut fastballs that didn't cut. A little bit too much of the plate. Frank White, as you said, has become a home run hitter. 22 last year, 10 already this year. Drills at the left center.
3-0, and Harold Baines now batting for Higuera. We'll see Hough in the bottom of the 7th inning as Baines of the White Sox, the sole representative of the White Sox, stands in to face Scott. Baines batting .316. A quiet type, but a solid and very steady player. And he grounds it to the right side where Sachs gets his first chance of the game and throws to Hernandez to retire the side. But White hits a homer and the American League leads 3-0. Before we go to the bottom of the 7th, here's all the scoring in the game. 2nd inning, Winfield at second base, 2 out, 0-2 on Lou Whitaker. Over the wall. 2-0 American League, and it stays that way until the 7th inning with 2 out, and again an 0-2 count. Mike Scott working, and Frank White hits 1 out. And so it's 3-0 American League. The American League has not won an All-Star game in a National League ballpark in 24 years. The last time was 1962 at Wrigley Field in Chicago. That was one of the years in which they played 2 All-Star games. First one was in Washington, and the second one at Clark and Addison. Charlie Hough, who throws the knuckleball for the Texas Rangers. Hernandez, it's a soft fly ball to right field, and Barfield gathers it. 1 away. Hernandez taken care of, and Gary Carter coming up.
Quite a story. Charlie Hough broke his pinky finger on his pitching hand, shaking hands, kind of messing around with a guy early in the season, or really in spring training. Won 9 games. You kind of wonder if he had been there all year, where the Rangers would be. Only a game and a half out in the American League West. The biggest question I had, Al, was to Lance Parrish, who is catching the knuckleball. Have you ever done it before? He said, yeah, I did it at AAA level. And I said, how do you go about doing it? Do you wait for the ball to get to you, or do you try to go out and snag it? He said, of course, Tim, you know about this. He said, you can't wait for the ball to get to you, because it sometimes doesn't.
Well, as you see Carter up there, I'll tell you the best explanation that I have ever heard about how to hit the knuckleball, and it was told to me by Duke Snyder, who used to play catch on the sidelines with Gil Hodges, who had an excellent knuckleball. And Duke, who hit the knuckleball very well, learned how to hit it because he waited to catch it. And that's what you have to do to hit it. You have to wait until the last minute, and that's the same formula you have to take into it when you take into consideration when you try to catch the ball. You wait till the last minute and you snare it.
There's a look at the National League lineup the way it is at the moment, and where they're hitting with Scott now in the number 2 spot. 2-1 to Carter is in the air to right field, and Barfield has another play, and that's 2 nines in the scorebook here in the 7th inning. I still think the best explanation was Bob Uecker, how to catch the knuckleball. Pick it up when it stops rolling.
Exactly. Wait till it stops rolling and pick it up.
There's an example of waiting a little bit long with Gary Carter. He waited, got the ball in on him, and fly ball to right field.
Well, by waiting when you're trying to catch it, and I caught 3 knuckleballers, among whom were Bob Tiefenauer and Barney Schultz back in 1964, who came to the Cardinals. But by waiting on it, your arms relax, and that's how you catch it most effectively, with relaxed arms.
Parker hits it foul, and the count is 0-1. Dave Parker batting for the first time in the game. Parker of the resurgent Reds in what's a true 16 battle in the National League West. You go figure it out. Anybody can win that division. And the Reds playing very well just prior to the All-Star break. Mattingly snares it, makes the play unassisted, and that's the 6th time in 7 innings the Nationals have gone out 1-2-3 as you look at Ralph Kiner and Kathleen Sullivan. The American League leads 3-0 in the All-Star game, and a new battery. It's Sid Fernandez, the winningest pitcher in the National League. 12-2, the Hawaiian-born left-hander comes out of the bullpen to work the 8th, and his new battery mate is Jody Davis of the Chicago Cubs, who takes over for Gary Carter as Kirby Puckett leads things off. Puckett has played the whole game, the starting center fielder, and Fernandez misses low for a ball. 1-0.
Well, it took 27 years since the state of Hawaii, 1959? And the pitcher now, Sid Fernandez and Charlie Hough, both from the state of Hawaii. And they're the first 2 pitchers ever to pitch from the state of Hawaii. Ron Darling was a member of the National League team last year. He's from Hawaii, but he did not pitch last year.
Hough left when he was young, and Fernandez, not only born there, grew up there and still lives there. Great star at Kaiser High School and a one-time Dodger. And when the Dodgers had their problems in the bullpen a couple of years back and had to go to the Mets to pick up the reliever Carlos Diaz, they had to part with Fernandez, and that has really turned out to backfire on LA. 2-2.
And a very deceptive windup, very long stride, hides the ball well. Good curveball, basically a two-pitch pitcher. Come up with a little bit of a changeup. Leading the National League in wins with 12. See him miss with a curveball. Last year, I think the incredible thing, only 9 and 9, but had the lowest hits allowed per 9 innings in the National League, even lower than Dwight Gooden. There's one criticism: he needs to throw more strikes. 57 walks in 118 innings this year, yet he still won 12 games.
Runs a lot of full counts as he does here, and Puckett draws the walk. And that is only the second walk in the game.
Take a look at Sid Fernandez. Again, very deceptive motion. Watch the long stride, uses his body very well. See the good follow through. If you're going to teach somebody how to throw a pitch, that would be the way you want to do it. Just don't throw it with your arm. Use your body.
Now Lloyd Moseby bats for the first time in the game. The Blue Jays center fielder taking low, ball 1. Puckett at first base and nobody out. Mike Krukow throwing in the National League bullpen as Fernandez misses outside, so he's in arrears 2-0. National League trying to give Chub Feeney another going away present. There's Krukow throwing. Chub is the retiring president of the league, with Yale president A. Bartlett Giamatti taking over after the season. But the Americans have other ideas tonight. 3-0 in the 8th inning, and Fernandez behind now 3-0.
Lloyd Moseby hangs in there against lefties, and he's willing to take a walk. He's walked 41 times already this year. So if you're going to walk him, he'll take it, and he does.
So he went 7 innings with 1 walk in the game. That was Schmidt, who was walked by Higuera in the 5th. And now Puckett walks on a 3-2 pitch, and Moseby walks on 4 pitches. And Hernandez goes to the mound to visit with Fernandez, a not uncommon sight during the regular season.
And so did Jody Davis. And in an all-star game, as a catcher, you really don't know what to tell the pitcher. You met him in the clubhouse. You're usually facing him with a bat in your hand. You know, and you go out there, I mean, what are you going to tell him? Stay on top? I mean, there's nothing. You kind of just go out for show, give him the ball, and
throw strikes.
Yeah, throw strikes.
Well, in this case, that's
he
pretty
says,
good
okay,
advice.
and does it.
Meanwhile, here is Brooke Jacoby batting for Wade Boggs. The Cleveland third baseman comes up with runners at first and second, and he bunts foul. Now, normally in an all-star game, you're not going to see very much bunting with Puckett at second and Moseby at first. But in a situation like this, and the way things have gone for the American League, they're a little sensitive to the way they've been beat up on through the years, and they're looking for those extra runs here.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, but you know, here's Jacoby's first at bat in the All-Star competition, and he's called upon to sacrifice.
Yep. He also hit 20 home runs last year. This is not a normal situation for him. Acquired in '83 by the Indians for Len Barker. One of the trades that they've made over the last years that have really made them the surprise team in the American League. Record of 46 and 39. Presently in 3rd place, right behind the Yankees.
There you can see graphically the Americans dominate early on in the series that started in 33. Then the Nationals win 11 of the 16, and then the real domination began as Jacoby goes down on strikes. So they sent him up there to bunt. Took one shot at that and then strikes out swinging. And as is the case oftentimes with Fernandez, you can get a lot of walks and a lot of strikeouts. You got 2 walks and 1 K.
Well, the deceptive high fastball, and I think the one thing that when you talk to hitters, what makes him, and Timmy, you've seen him all year, is that he throws the ball in so many different planes. A lot of balls up in the strike zone, but yet he can make the pitch down in the strike zone. So you really don't know where to look, up or down off Fernandez.
Yeah, he's one of those types of pitchers where you just throw the jug gun away, that radar gun. You don't even worry about it. He rarely breaks 90 miles an hour. The radar gun, important for pitchers like Clemens and Gooden, but not for a guy like Fernandez.
Jim Rice now of the Boston Red Sox, who's having a good year even though he's hitting fewer home runs. Hitting for a high average this season at .334. 9 homers. That's on Rice-like, but 60 RBIs.
Yes, but he can hit a home run. That's what is in the back of your mind. And those 60 RBIs this year, it means he's hitting with men on base.
Rice bats for Parrish with 2 on and 1 out in the 8th inning. 3-0 American lead. 1-1.
It's almost like the gym has made a conscious effort to hit the ball the other way. One of the strongest hitters in baseball can do that very well. Last year, 35 double plays. He's going the other way, staying out of the double play situation.
1-2. I would guess that's one of those Fernandez fastballs. So if you haven't seen him, you probably can't believe how quickly it gets up there.
His foot hits the ground before his arm comes around. And usually when the foot hits the ground, the hitter has to commit himself, and then the arm comes from nowhere. And that was the type of swing, you're exactly right, that indicated the type of fastball that Fernandez throws most often.
1-2 pitch. The runners go. Rice strikes out. Davis's throw. Brown can't dig it out. It rolls away, but Puckett has to hold. So Jim Rice strikes out, but Davis's throw was in the dirt, and the inning is still alive with Mattingly coming up.
Well, one of the problems a catcher has with a right-handed hitter up, he does have that impediment of the right-handed hitter. And Jody Davis threw the ball behind Rice and into the dirt. Chris Brown couldn't find the ball initially. Had Puckett come up and just taken off for home, I think he would have made it. Look at Brown. Brown doesn't know whether the ball's down there. He's trying to hold the glove down. He might have had a hold of Kirby's foot instead of the ball.
Mattingly, who has struck out and grounded out tonight. He didn't start the game. Wally Joyner did and went 0 for 1 as Mattingly takes outside.
Well, he's finding out what life in the All-Star game is all about. Twice against Fernando and again Fernandez. Not 2 easy pitchers to hit off of. Of course, if you're a pitcher in the American League and you happen to be left-handed, you realize that Mr. Mattingly is not just an out. If you're left-handed, hangs in there very well. Last year, I think 17 or 18 of his 35 home runs were off left-handers.
One of those strange stats, New York Yankee hitters against Met pitchers were hitless before Dave Winfield got the double back in the 3rd inning or the 2nd inning. Now Don Mattingly trying to do the same things, obviously unaware of that stat.
1 ball, 2 strikes to count on him.
Now, if this was Pete Rose at the plate, he would know that
Oh,
stat.
yeah, he'd know it. Yeah.
You know who the pitchers were and who the hitters were and what the exact 0 for 3, 0 for 4, whatever.
One-two pitch. 2-2 now. Runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 down. There's Puckett. Mosby. First base open and Ripken on deck. And Mattingly goes down on strikes. So Hernandez strikes out the side. It's 3-0 American. Back after this from your local station.
MLB at Home is presented by Flonase Allergy Relief. Get 24-hour all-in-one allergy relief with Flonase.
Scoring summary now. Pretty brief. Dave Winfield a 2-out double in the 2nd, and then Lou Whitaker hit a home run to make it 2-0. And Frank White hit a 2-out 0-2 home run in the 7th inning, 3-0. The American League pitching has been brilliant, and Charlie Hough works on Chris Brown of the Giants in the bottom of the 8th inning. Chris Brown having a great season as the Giants have come to the fore, a team that finished dead last year. Brought Roger Craig in to manage, and as the saying goes, you got to like these kids. Brown is one of the kids. Chili Davis is not a kid anymore. He's been around, but he's having a fine year. And Mike Krukow is the other Giant here in Houston. In the air to deep left field, and going back is Mosby to play it off the wall. And Brown, in his 2nd year with the Giants, in his first All-Star game, has a double.
We talked about waiting for the knuckleball, and watch Chris Brown wait for the knuckleball. Pops it over the head of Lloyd Mosby and left field, and that is the first extra base hit for the National League this evening. Of course, they only have two
Well, he
hits.
did what all great hitters do, committed himself but kept his hands back, had enough to go. And you talk to anybody and they say, what's the difference between Chris Brown 1985 and 1986? He's cut down on his strokes. Last year they saw him the finest fielder in the National League for third baseman. So one of the reasons why they're close to really leading the National League West.
On top by a game with Chili Davis, one of the few who wears his first name on the back of his uniform. Vita Blue of the Giants would be another, as it's fouled away. The new catcher for the American League is Rich Gedman, and there he is. Gedman of the Red Sox batting in the 4 spot, and Brooke Jacoby has stayed in the game. The Indian third baseman bats third.
That's really not his name. That's just a word denoting the conditions at Candlestick.
You won't want a spelling bee with it, but you get the idea. Foul away in the count 1 and 2. I mean, that kind of chili is supposed to be hot, isn't it?
Oh.
Right now, the National League has 2 hits. And wouldn't you know that Whitey Herzog's the manager? I mean, the Cardinals haven't hit all season, so what else is new for Whitey? He must feel right at home tonight. As Davis strikes out, but on a knuckleball, and Gedman throws to first and gets him on a great play. Brown goes to third. Rich Gedman hustling back, picking it up, and he had to think about the on-deck circle as well.
Throwing in one motion. Watch Gedman off with a mask. Davis didn't run right away, but Chili Davis can run. And Rich Gedman making a very quick play over there, obviously with first base unoccupied. Then on the third strike, the catcher must catch it. Gedman made some kind of play.
And U.B. Brooks, who comes up now, wasn't exactly giving him any help. Brooks was in the on-deck circle, and Gedman had to think about throwing around Brooks as well. Infield plays back. It's a strikeout and a wild pitch as Brooks takes a strike. Oh, and 1 the count. Drill to left field, but foul, and the count 0-2. Crowd here chanting, I believe we want Davis. Glen Davis, the Astro, who was out earlier and would have pinch hit had a prior inning continued on.
20 home runs this year for the National League, and you look at Charlie Hough, and in all honesty, they are hitting the ball rather crisply. And Dick Hauser with Dave Ricchetti and Don Ozzie leading the major leagues with 22 saves. And Willie Hernandez down the bullpen has chosen not to get anybody up.
I'll tell you, a lot of times you can tell apprehension in a catcher by what his right hand does. And watch Rich Gedman. Just before he receives the knuckleball, that hand goes out, it's rigid. And what he's trying to do is just to protect anything. He's got to call for the knuckleball. Now watch his right hand. See it open up like that? That's an apprehensive catcher. Believe me. Trust me. I guarantee you want to throw your body in front of the ball, but anything you can, but the ball's dancing around. What do they call those butterfly catchers? Those lepidopterists? Is that right?
Is that right? You're asking us if that's right?
No, I think
who are you looking at?
It sounds all right.
You.
Who do you think they're working with?
Another strikeout. It gets away from Gedman, who throws home, and Hough covers. No. Bruce Fleming says safe. And the perils of the knuckleball.
Yeah, but the play should have gone to first base. Watch his right hand come out. See how stiff it is? Remember, we talked about waiting for the knuckleball to relax the arms. The arms weren't relaxed, and Gedman's plays at first base. If you get the out at first base, it's a 3-1 ball game, bottom of the 8th inning.
That's exactly what Charlie Hough is thinking as he's late covering home plate. Gedman makes the wrong play, so does Hough, and the run scores.
Remember the one-hitter earlier in the year when Charlie Hough didn't cover home plate.
Exactly.
Beat him a ball game.
And a runner scored from second base, and that was the night that Hough came within a couple of outs of a no-hitter.
Right. Wally Joyner was the runner at second base. It ended up a one-hitter, and he lost 2-1 to California.
The only debatable thing, though, here is that you have 3 of the premier relievers in the American League that do not throw a knuckleball. You have a catcher that obviously is having difficulty. Why aren't any of them warming up?
Well, they heard you because there goes Righetti. As Raines hits a bouncer foul. So Hough in the inning gives up the double. He has 2 strikeouts, but Gedman has to make a great play to get 1 out at first. That last strikeout is also a pass ball charge to Gedman to allow the run to score. It's 3-1 with Brooks at first base, 1 out, and Raines up for the second time in the game. Charlie Hough, 38 years old, a long career, finally makes it to an all-star game, and as Jim mentioned, started the season on the disabled list with that weird handshake. He was actually shaking hands with a circuit court judge in Florida, good buddy of his, and they went through a pinky shake, and the shake sent Hough to the bench, and the judge went back to the bench as well. Chopper foul, and it's still 0-2.
Obviously, it's a terrible situation for Rich Gedman. I mean, here's his first experience, to my knowledge, at handling a knuckleball. Jim, you said earlier that Lance Parrish had handled one in AAA ball. I know that Gedman hasn't been handling a knuckleballer at Fenway this year.
It also presents another problem. A knuckleballer ball doesn't get there quick. We're talking about somebody that throws 60 miles per hour.
Time had been called by Bruce Fleming, the plate umpire, because a balk had been called. So Hough has thrown a wild pitch. His knuckler leads to a pass ball, and now a balk.
I think he called it on the stop. You got to come to a 1,001 stop, but no knuckleballer that I've ever seen ever stops.
Well, no pitcher ever does if he can get away with it.
That's right.
And the reason he's not stopping is because the reason he doesn't stop is because it takes longer. He doesn't get the ball to home plate as quickly, and you can steal easier off knuckleballers. Gedman knows that. Hough knows that. So does the National League.
1-2. Don Ozzie of the Orioles joins Dave Righetti in the American League pen. 3-1 the American League. 1 out. Brooks at second, and Raines fouls it away. Still 1-2. Virginia Raines. Tim's wife and her husband representing the tying run.
I tell you, Virginia Raines, quite an athlete in her own right, down in Sanford, Florida. Ran track down there. Marvelous athlete.
2-2. Their kids might have a little sprinter's breathing, huh?
They got a shot. Gedman doing a good job just trying to battle that knuckleball back there. Certainly empathize with him.
3-2.
I don't think Charlie Hough doesn't know that. You can't give a pitcher a lot of confidence if he knows the catcher can't catch what he's throwing. So maybe you just don't throw as good a knuckleball, and then you give a little bit of an advantage to the hitter. This guy doesn't need an advantage.
Got him. Throw him the knuckleball, and Gedman makes the tag for the out. So Hough has now struck out 3 in the inning, but there's still 1 out to get. As Steve Sachs of the Dodgers comes up.
Here's that bug one more time. The dead spin. Dead spin. Look, reaching right, coming back left, and it finally hits the heel of the glove. I'll tell you, sometimes you're not a catcher when you're catching a knuckleballer. You're a blocker. Get a lot of skate saves back there.
Sachs is at the plate. Up high, ball 1. So Hough has a chance to strike out 4 in the inning.
Take a wild shot to say that that's never been done.
I would think so. Not in the All-Star game. It's been done in regular season baseballs. 2-0 the count. It has not been done in All-Star competition. Meanwhile, we've had 19 strikeouts in the game tonight as the pitcher's a fastball for a strike, and the count is 2-1. Brooks is at second. 2 out. 2-1 on Steve Sachs. 2-2.
Kind of ironic when Hough throws the good knuckleball, the hitter can't hit it and the catcher can't catch it.
For the same reason.
Did you ever have a problem similar to this?
Oh, you kid, of course.
To left center for a base hit. And a run will score as the throw comes to second. And so it's 3-2, and the crowd will really explode now because Glen Davis of the Astros comes up to pinch hit.
Well, a good knuckleball, but it's down the middle of the plate. Carver said Sachs waits on it, and Mosby concedes the run. Something they should have done earlier in the inning.
Right.
Taking the out at first base.
You're right. That way the inning's over.
Meanwhile, Hauser comes out to the mound. He's got Ozzie in the bullpen and Dave Righetti. This is something a manager really doesn't want to do in an all-star game, go to the mound and get somebody, but he's got to do it here with Glen Davis coming up. 3-2 American League. We'll be back. Dave Righetti of the New York Yankees comes out of the bullpen now to face Glen Davis, who leads the National League in home runs. And that's remarkable because in this ballpark, it's very difficult to hit homers. It's almost impossible for an Astro or a Cardinal, let's say, at Busch Stadium to lead the league in homers. But Davis has a good shot.
To give you some idea, he has hit 9 home runs in this ballpark. And 2 years ago, the entire Astro team hit 18 all year.
Incredible strength, a quick bat, likes the ball out over the plate. If you're going to try to get him out, you want to come up and in. Righetti certainly has the velocity to do that. I think the reason Dick Hauser brought him in is Steve Sachs with 22 stolen bases. You bring in Righetti, a little tougher to steal on. Don Ozzie, who's leading the major leagues in saves, is right-handed. Tall guy, about 6'4", 6'5", easier to steal on. What Righetti has fallen prey to this year is the lack of a setup man in New York. Brian Fisher, the man they counted on, has not done the job. He's still with the Yankees, but sent out a time or two.
There goes Sachs. Good jump up and in. The throw to second is not in time.
So they steal the base anyway. Again, as in many times, you go on the first move from a left-hander. Steve with a good jump. Gedman with a quick release makes a good throw, but it's not in time. Sachs easily beats the throw. Frank White with a nice stop, keeping the ball from going into center field.
1-0 on Glen Davis, the Astro first baseman. Fouled away. 1-1. Well, this is storybook time. The local hero makes good. He's the go-ahead run.
Well, as George Brett said so many times, we give them a little opportunity talking about the American League, and they usually seize it. Gedman didn't take the out at first base. He had the leading home run hitter at the plate.
And it's 2-1. Jacoby of the Indians makes the catch, and that's that. But the Nationals get 2 to make it 3-2 as we go to the ninth.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept it from your allergy pills? Flonase Sensibist. Nothing stronger, nothing gentler, nothing lasts longer. Flonase Sensibist. 24-hour non-drowsy allergy relief.
Mike Krukow of the San Francisco Giants, thrilled to be in an all-star game, having a great season for the Giants, and pitching the ninth inning here, going to work on Ripken in the count 1-0. So Cal Ripken, who's played every inning for 4 years, just keeps on rolling. It's the ninth and he's still in there.
What's the old saying? You rest in the wintertime, right?
Closest that streak ever came to ending was last year, where he sprained his ankle like on a Monday night, iced it all night long, all day long, and then taped it up and went out and played.
Barfield and White to follow. Nice stop by Krukow. Stabs it on a hop. Takes care of Ripken, who goes 0 for 4 tonight without hitting the ball out of the infield. 12 strikeouts for the American League tonight, and the National Leaguers have struck out 7 times, so a record has been tied. And we're on the verge of a new one. 19 strikeouts total in the game. The All-Star game mark set 2 years ago at Candlestick with 21. Barfield at the plate. 1-0. When the National League bats in the bottom of the ninth inning, it'll be Keith Hernandez. Then they go to the pitcher's spot. They'll hit for Krukow, and then Dave Parker is due up third. Popped up. Brown is there. And Chris puts it away. 2 gone. And Frank White, who is now the difference in the game. White came up in the 7th inning, 2 out. The count went to 0-2. The crowd began to rise to its feet in anticipation of the Astro Mike Scott striking the side out, and then White parked one into the seats and left.
Very big run. What that run did was really make a grand slam, or 4 runs, the amount of runs that the National League needed to come up with to beat the American League. And it's just a classic game of baseball, whether it's the World Series, the All-Star game, a regular Major League season. The National League has really made 2 mistakes. 0-2 curveball by Gooden, the 0-2 pitch by Scott. Both have turned out to be home runs.
Fly ball to left field. Tim Raines will put it away. And up come the National League in the bottom of the 9th inning with the Americans on top, 3-2. So in the Astrodome, where it's been a big year for the Houston Astros, new manager Hal Lanier, new president and general manager Dick Wagner, and a capacity crowd at the Dome looking on, hopeful of a National League comeback here as Hernandez starts the bottom of the 9th inning with a chopper back of third, fielded in fair ground by Jacoby, guns him down. So Keith is 0 for 4 tonight, and Jody Davis.
Jacoby on the line at third base. In the All-Star game, you play standard brand baseball, and traditionally, whenever in doubt, you go to what you've been doing for years, and that's guarding the line. And that time it paid off.
Well, we talked about that in the playoffs. Might not always be the right thing to do, but certainly paid off then.
Davis takes outside. One change for the American League. They finally get Cal Ripken out of a ball game. That's the significance of this. Tony Fernandez, the brilliant young shortstop of the Blue Jays, taking over. Davis rips it into center field for a base hit, and so the tying run is at first base, and Dave Parker comes up as the winning run.
Most likely you'll see a pinch runner here. Tony Pena, the third catcher. Take a look at the fastball right down the middle. Davis having an excellent year, just pings it to center field. So you have the tying run at first and the winning run at the plate.
And I love it. Tony Pena as a pinch runner. Those catchers can do it all, pal.
Some catchers.
Well, let's see, you 67 All-Star game, you're 3 for 3. You led the National League in triples. What else can we get to tonight? Well, I still can't believe that.
Dave Parker, who if he hit a home run would cement the MVP award of this game, I'm sure, and that's something he's already won back in '79 with his arm. Fouled it away. He threw out 2 runners that night at the Kingdome in Seattle, July 17th, 1979, to win the MVP award. And he was 1 for 3 at the plate in that one. Tonight, Parker 0 for 1, having grounded out. Rips it, base hit into right field. Pena round second, goes to third, and so the tying and winning runs are on. And with Righetti a left-hander and Chris Brown a right-handed batter coming up, Hauser goes to the mound. He has Don Ozzie in the bullpen from Baltimore and Hernandez.
Watch this reaction by Dave Parker, extending those arms and rifling one to right field. Check this out. He liked that.
Very much. They don't want to win too badly, do they?
Well, I can smell it now. Hauser says, give me the right-hander, not Hernandez, who started in. He wants Ozzie to face Brown. And we'll be back after this. Don Ozzie having a great year with the Orioles, and so it comes down to Ozzie trying to slay the Giants. He's got Chris Brown and then Chili Davis on deck. Meanwhile, there was Willie Hernandez thinking he was coming into the game. The left-hander with a screwball thought he was coming in to face the righty, and Ozzie says, excuse me.
Yes, let 23 saves pass them by. Looking at a total of 41 saves down there, those two guys. One of the reasons, as you look at Chris Brown, doubled his first time up. Ozzie is the reason the Orioles have stayed within 10 games of the Red Sox in the American League East.
The infield is a double play depth, and it's 1-0. So it'll be interesting on a ground ball. If they can turn it, the game would be over. If they get the force, the game would be tied.
He can be a strikeout pitcher.
And there's a little grounder to second, and White touches for one and throws to first for a double play. And so they play the infield halfway, and it works. With White throwing out Brown in the American League, and Dick Hauser comes to Houston and wins an All-Star game in a National League park for the first time in 24 years. Good ball game.
Surely was a check swing by Chris Brown, and he hit the ball too hard towards second. Dick Hauser gambling, and the double play worked. Easy double play for Frank White. Here it is one more time. Watch the check swing.
Well, the reason for this, Timmy, is that a slider looks like a fastball. Brown thinks it's a fastball. Halfway commits himself. One of the best second basemen in baseball.
The MVP is Roger Clemens, and there were several candidates tonight. The Chevrolet Most Valuable Player for the 1986 All-Star Game. The Boston right-hander who grew up here in Houston and pitched 3 perfect innings. Valenzuela was brilliant tonight. Lou Whitaker hit a 2-run homer. You can make a case for him. Frank White hit a home run in the 7th inning that turned out to be the game winner. Don Ozzie comes out of the bullpen to induce the double play with the tying and winning runs on base. So that's the story. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver, Don Drysdale with thanks to Alan Roth and Steve Hurd saying good night from Houston.